welcome to Level Up with Google Drawings and Google Jamboard. What? 2 for the price of 1, and that price is free. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel and you want the resource for today, you're going to look right underneath the video and you may have to click show more. And while you do not get a certificate, you do get the knowledge. Remember to click that thumbs up and subscribe. Who am I, you may say? I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I'm the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and I'm your host for today. Hello. Here are all of the ways that you can contact me. I would love to hear from you. Let me know. Now, what do we have coming up? Today is Drawings and Jamboard, and I'm crying. It's so hard to say goodbye every summer, but we only have 1 session left, which is tomorrow on Google Sites, and you do have to register separately for that one. Then we have the Teach Tech Summit. It is 4 days of amazing sessions. It's a whole conference for $40 if you use the code that you see on the screen. The code that says friends, because you're my friends, you get 20% off. So it's pretty much $10 per day. I'm going to be there on Thursday and Friday doing a whole bunch of stuff. Then we have Creating Your Digital Library, which will be next weekend with Nancy Jo Lambert. If you have not seen Nancy Jo talk, you want to be there for that one. And then the original 24-hour virtual free conference. This is an international conference, and it literally goes for 24 hours. You get up at 2 a.m., you're like, I feel like learning. Come join us. We're going to have games throughout. You can win prizes throughout. Like, it is insanity for 24 hours, and it is so much fun, and it's completely free. So make sure that you register for that. Then we have financial literacy for educators to round out July. In August, we have back to school with Bunsey, with Rochelle. Then we have equity is not an add-on. This is one of our newer webinars that we just added. I love talking about equity with this group. It's just always enlightening. I learn stuff, just those nuggets of joy to keep us focused on equity in our classrooms, our schools, and our districts. Then we have infusing digital reading and writing tools, however you teach, with Dr. Hines. I can't wait for this one. I think it's going to be really, really good, because we all should be writing and reading, right? So in whatever content. So I'm looking forward to this one. Then I will be at the TCCA conference. Hopefully we will be in person in Houston, Texas, completely free. One of my favorite conferences every single year. Honestly, whether it's virtual or in person, I truly do love this conference. Then we have on December 4th, Google Educator Certifications Panel. So these lovely innovators and trainers and coaches will be coming to discuss their experience and to give you some tips and tricks. And you can kind of see that, do I want to do this, right? So there you go. So I went through the announcements pretty quickly because you can register all on one website. So all of that information is on one website. And you know what? It's time, because we got 2 tools to go through. We don't have time. So it is time to go through leveling up with Google Drawings and Google Jamboard.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope your Monday is off to a great start. Thank you for joining us for part of your Monday. Currently here in Cincinnati, it's pretty overcast, dreary, rainy. I feel like we've had more of those days maybe than sunshine, but anyway, it's summertime, so I'm not complaining in the least. Today, as Desiree had said, we are covering not 1, but 2 different Google tools, Google Drawings and Google Jamboard, which share a lot of similarities. And we've only got 2 hours to get through them. So we're going to jump in. Make sure you throw all of your questions in the chat. And like we've done in so many of our other webinars, if you know the answer to that, or you have a tip or a trick that you want to share with others, please go ahead and put that in there. Share with all of our other educators that are joining us today, and let's just really make this a fun and interactive webinar. I'm Sarah Kiefer, and I am hosting this, or sharing all of my knowledge about Google tools this summer. And this summer we're leveling it up, and this is Desiree's and my website, and has all of our previous recordings as well as their resources right here. And if you get down, like Desiree said, today and tomorrow are our last ones. We've gone through the last couple of weeks together, and today we're doing drawings and Jamboard. Tomorrow, if you're looking to register, Google Sites has come a long way. We just got word not too long ago, actually, that the classic version of Google Sites is officially done this summer. So you're definitely going to want to know about the new Google Sites. I really like it. It's come a long way from where it started, and it's got a lot of pretty cool features and things that you can do. So if you haven't registered yet, register to join us tomorrow. Even if your schedule doesn't allow, this way Desiree will automatically send you the recording and the resource, and you'll be able to watch it in your own time. So with that, if you are looking for, let me refresh my screen because I did put up the, there we go. Here is the resource for today. And just like all of the other resources, it is all collected inside of a Wakelet, which I did a webinar on Wakelet last summer with Desiree. I can't say enough about Wakelet, how easy it is to put things all together and edit them and collaborate with others and share them out. It's wonderful. So what I've done is I've got all of the information here. The two resources that I'm using today are linked directly below our website. I'm going to start with Google Drawings, and then we'll get into Jamboard more around the top of the hour. Like I said, feel free to throw any questions in the chat. Desiree will interrupt me when it's appropriate, or we can answer each other's questions. All right, strap in, ready to go. I've got my red shirt on. That means it's Google Drawings time. I have often referred to, and I say this with all the love in the world, that Google Drawings is Google's red-headed app, because people don't give it enough credit. People don't spend enough time with it. They go, it really doesn't have a whole lot to it. I'm not going to invest my time using it. And I'm going to tell you that might be a bit of a mistake. And you can see over on the right side, let's level up and create. These are all ways that I'm hoping to tackle today. I'm going to keep my eye on the time. Desiree, you keep your eye on the time. If we start getting close, I want to make sure we give Jamboard time as well. We might have to put a pause on going into each of these, head over to Jamboard, and then see how it goes. But each of these links out to another Google Drawing that kind of digs in deep with different things that you can do. And again, since this is a leveling up, it's not about creating the drawing. It's not about inserting that word box or word art or text box or something like that. We're taking all of those basics and we're going to kind of pump it up a little bit. We're going to make it a little bit more than just our bare bones. So with no further shenanigans here, we're going to go ahead and jump in. And like all of my other presentations I have done, I am using the tool that I am talking about. So this is a Google Drawing. If you've never looked at a Google Drawing, probably the simplest analogy that I can have you close your eyes. I know probably 99.9% of you have used Google Slides to some extent. Really what a Google Drawing is one of those Google Slides. It is a single Google slide, no more, no less. It is one Google slide. You can't add more drawings. You'd have to completely make a new file. So what you see is what you get with Google Drawings. Because of that simplistic thought process, a lot of people go, it's not worth my time. Completely wrong. Okay. So first of all, when you look around, I've got some pros and I've got a couple of drawbacks, just some things to kind of keep in mind, because whenever you're talking about technology, it's not about the tool, right? It's about how you're choosing to use that particular tool and what application you need to use it for. So most of us, I'm going to assume, are, if not all of us, are classroom teachers. So we're going to be using these tools with our students. Google Drawings is perfect because quite often kids are going to ask for more paper. They're going to ask for, can I add on this? Which is great. But sometimes there's a lot of, with the constraint, there's a lot of beauty that comes with, nope, you have this, that's it, no more. You have to get it in this space. I tend to get pretty wordy, so Google Docs slides, they could go on for forever and ever and ever. But on a drawing, this is it. I have to be very specific and very intentional with what I put on here. Like I was really thinking, like, how am I going to use this for my presentation? Google Slides, you just pop on another slide. Google Docs, just keep on typing. Sheets, more tabs at the bottom. Goes out to the right to infinity, goes down, on your rows for forever. Google Drawings, it's this. That's it. Okay, now I cheated a little bit because I'm using multiple Google Drawings, but they're for very specific purposes, and that's the thing you've got to remember. But you can adjust the mat on a drawing. You can grab this little corner right here, or do like we do with all the other ones, go to File and go down here to Page Setup. You can customize in that manner. There's still gray space, just like in the Google Slides. And if you look, you can see I've got a scroll bar. So I've got some stuff up here in this gray space. I've got some credits over here because we always want to make sure that we're giving credit to the people. I didn't create these icons. These people created these icons, and they're all from Flat Icon, which is a wonderfully free tool. You can pay for an upgrade if you'd like, as well as I've got some information down here. So the bulk of my information is right here on the Google Drawing, but keep in mind all of that gray space, just like in a Google Slide, that's really, really valuable real estate. So don't forget about that, and don't overlook it. Make sure that you're using it. You can insert a video. You got to do a little bit of a workaround. We're going to talk about that in one of the activities. Probably my favorite use, and it's the first one we're going to go with, is creating transparent images. I don't like to have that background of an image. I can't stand it. In fact, there are a lot of tools if you've got a photograph, but what if you just want to make a graphic? You want to create it. You want your students to create it. You can do that in a Google Drawing and have the background be transparent. It's fantastic. It's collaborative, just like all the other Google applications, and you can embed Google Drawings in websites. And if you remember, if any of you were here with us on Friday and we did that Google form and we did the breakout, that math breakout that I just couldn't stop raving about, all of those images that you clicked on, the envelope was the one that we clicked on. That is a Google Drawing. It links you out to something else. So you can embed these into other places. Keep that in mind, just like other Google applications. Now, drawbacks. This is one where teachers always say, but Sarah, I want to make sure that kids can't mess with stuff. I don't want them to remove things from the background in a Google Drawing. Not possible. Sorry. You can insert an image, but they can move the image. They can shrink or expand the image. They can delete the image. It's not going to freeze anything in your background like Slides does. A lot of people will say that only having one drawing in a file is a drawback. I think it's huge, and it's a beautiful thing, and that we need to embrace it because it limits. And if you can work inside of a limit, I think you've really leveled up right there, all on its own. And then finally, there are no add-ons with Google Drawings. You can see in my menu up here, there is no, it goes File, Edit, View Insert. There's no add-on tool in Google Drawings itself. So keep that in mind too. You might consider that a drawback. Some of you might go, oh, thank goodness, because those add-ons just really don't make a whole lot of sense to me, or I've not found value in them. And now you don't even have to worry about the potential for them. So here we go. We've got 10 topics over here, 10 different ways that I've really kind of given some thought to in a classroom, because sometimes if you don't take these level ups and you put them to an applicable use, a lot of times you just get kind of lost with them. So we're going to start first and foremost with my absolute favorite, which is a digital badge. And any of you have done any gamification in your classroom, or maybe for your own professional development, you've done some gamification and they've given you these digital badges and you go, how did they create that? That's kind of cool. Google Drawings is probably the place, or they've probably paid somebody, honestly, some decent money in order to be able to create this digital badge. So you can see right now, I have nothing on my mat, but I do have some steps over here. This way, if you want to make your own copy of it, you can make your own copy, delete whatever we end up creating right here, and then you go and create your own digital badge. So what we have to do first and foremost, anytime you talk about any of these applications, is make sure that you know what your file size is going to be. How big is your mat? How tall, how wide, all of that kind of good stuff. Decide that first, because if you decide to come back and change it afterwards, it could throw some things off. So keep that in mind. I like to make my digital badges so that they're square. So I'm going to customize the size, and I'm just going to go with a 6x6. Obviously, the bigger you go, the bigger your file size when you download it. Just keep that in mind. We're going to decide the shape. And for this one, I'm just going to go with a circle. I'm going to keep that very similar through, because think about creating multiple different badges, and you kind of want to keep them somewhat similar, but give each of them their own flavor. So in here, I'm just going to click a circle. I'm going to make it a lot larger. I'm going to make it almost the size. And if you're looking to keep this proportional, hold down your shift key and then drag it out. And then look for your red guidelines so that you're centered and all of this. And then here's a big tip. When you see that checkerboard, that is transparent. That does not currently have any kind of imagery on it. This right now, so if I were to download this, it would download just as this blue circle. You're not going to see any of this background. Okay, so keep that a checkerboard look in order to have the transparent image on the background. Now, what I like to do with badges is make sure that the border, probably black is my favorite, and then make it a real thick border. So if you ended up deciding to print these and you wanted to cut them out, that black kind of gives it a real nice beefy edge to it. And then I typically will make the inside a white. That way, whatever image we layer on top of it really pops. Now, think about something in your classroom that you're going to award a badge for, or a professional development that maybe you've gone to, and you want to come up with some sort of image, an icon, a picture that represents it. You could certainly come in here and search the web for one of these. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you this flat icon website that I absolutely adore. Now, I've already created my account. I've already logged in. It's taking its sweet time. And let's say we're doing something with history, because I just love history. I love everything about it. And we're going to create a badge that has to do with geography. Now, the thing with Flat Icon is, yes, it does have a paid upgrade. I always try to stick with the free, because I know not everybody's budget is unlimited. A lot of us are working on a very limited or no budget. So you can always limit your search to just the free icons. And maybe we like this little icon. It is going to ask you to make sure that you attribute. I'll show you how I'm doing that. And then I like to download it as a PNG. It does give you the same icon, just in different looks, if you will. So let's download this. I am going to copy that link for attribution and then download. And then it is as easy as, for me, it's going to download right here. You might have to go to your downloads folder. And then what I like to do is I just drag it on up here. And then I can see that it's too big, so I need to make it a bit smaller. And again, using your red guidelines, there you go. It's in the center of that circle. Doesn't that look really nice? Nice and crisp. Now, you could change the color of that circle if you wanted to. You can make it transparent even if you wanted to, so that whenever you add these badges on, they just kind of have the circle and then the imagery in the inside. And then what I'm going to do here as well is I'm going to insert a text box, and then I'm going to add that attribution. It's really kind of it's meant to do some pretty special things, but I'm just going to strip away the majority of it. So it just says icons made, not actually, because there's only one icon made by Monkik. And then I'm going to make that a whole lot smaller. And then what you can do too, if you want to make sure you give attribution, just tuck it down on there. Now that's to do it the proper way and all that kind of thing. If you pay to upgrade your account, you don't have to, you're not required to do that attribution. I like to do it because I also like to talk to the kids about like, hey, I didn't create that image, you know, so it's all good. And then you can always add in some text, like maybe this is a geography badge that the kids have earned. And then here's a really cool thing that you can do. You come up to File, you're going to download it. I prefer to download it as a PNG. You can always do a JPEG. And then when you go to click on it and you open it up, it's going to open up in my preview window. And then you can see that's a really slick looking badge. Now, if you were to take this and make numerous badges over and over, maybe you're doing a multiplication set and you want to have a badge for completing your 0 times tables, your 1s times tables, what I would do then is just swap out that picture. So in history class, if this is the geography badge, maybe we swap out this icon, and it's as easy as just moving it over here, get a new one, put it in that space, and then download again. And then you could over time have a tremendous amount of various digital badges. Now, the cool thing about doing it that way is you could then, taking it a step further, using these digital badges, you say, well, Sarah, how do you do that? So let's say I want to open up my Google Keep, which is not an app that we have talked about in this webinar series. We talked about it last summer. But what you can do is you can see I've already added in a digital badge right here. So you could create a collection in Google Keep of digital badges. So I'm going to add a new note with an image. And then this is my digital badge down here. It's in my downloads. So I got to find digital badge, obviously going through with the naming conventions and all that kind of stuff. So I've got that badge in here now. Close that out. So now I have 2 digital badges. Now look what happens when I come back into my drawing. Let's say that we want to award this badge in a student's work. I've got my Google Keep bar over here. I'm going to, you see my little sidebar, I guess, maybe is probably the best word for it. I'm going to click on that Google Keep. And then what I should be able to do is drag it over and drop it. So now I've just awarded this badge on my student's work. It's kind of like a digital sticker, if you will, right? So if it's that one, you could also bring this one over. Again, like if you have numerous ones of these and the students are doing an activity, dragging them over from your Keep in your sidebar over here works really nicely too.
Sarah, we have 2 questions.
Yes.
One is, how do you get the border of the circle thick?
Thick. Oh, that's super easy. So whenever I do this, especially with being in the elementary grades, you kind of have to step them through it, right? So if you show them how to create this shape using the shape tool, and then you show them the paint bucket, like, hey, you want to change the center color. Let's check out that paint bucket. I always say it's a tipping paint bucket. So you come in here, you pick your color. And then to the right of that paint bucket, you see the pencil with the black line under it. Yep, that's your border color. Pick whatever color that you want for that. And then I'll say, okay, guys, like it's a pretty wimpy border at first because it's only a 1. Pretty wimpy. You can't really see it. Let's make that thicker. Let's go thicker. So just to the right of your color now, because now they're learning the tools going across here too. And you hover. Notice my hands are not on my keyboard at all. It's just hovering on that series of stacked lines. It's your border weight. That is the thickness. So you come here The 2, the 3, not real beefy when we're talking about this size of a shape. I tend to go with the 8 and the 12. I wish it could be a little bit more customizable, but a girl can dream. Maybe one day, maybe if we give Google enough feedback. And I always have the kids, build in a couple minutes or whatever for them to play with it, see which one fits them the best.
And the second question is it possible to add text that curves around the icon?
Possible, yes. What is your frustration level is what I would ask. There are some, let me try to get this back in here. We're going to go there. You could, one way, you could just do this and you could put your word in and do some tilting. If you wanted to, then you would customize each of your letters in that tilting fashion. That is possible. I will say that is something that I have dreamed of as well. There is no direct way of doing it. You can do a little bit of app smashing if you have access to PowerPoint. And no, I'm not going to get struck down by saying that, but if you have access to PowerPoint, PowerPoint does have a real nice curved text ability. Do it there, but you have to make sure you have it exactly how you want it. And then you can download it or copy and paste it over. But then just keep in mind, like you're really inserting a locked thing. You can't change the color of it. You can't really change the shape of it. Size, proportionally, yes, and all that. There are a couple of websites that you can do that with. I was just thinking about it. There are a couple of websites. Tony Vincent, if any of you are out there and you're really, really desperately wanting to know how to do a curved, Tony Vincent has a really nice graphic. And I think I have it embedded in my Google Drawings Wakelet collection. That this website, again, you have to kind of do it on the website and then insert it over in drawings, will give you the ability to do the curved text. So yes, it's possible. It's a few extra steps in order to be able to do it. So it'll work though. And then right here over in my gray space, I have a template for creating digital badges that has this information on it too. But you can see how Google Drawings makes it really, really simple in order to be able to do this. But I do have a template. It's also linked with a blog that kind of gives you some background and a little bit more of a detailed description of how to create these. But I did create a lot of these badges for my district when we did some professional development. But I also did this with a 3rd grade teacher. We did a reading around the world and she wanted to do some gamification with it. So we created some badges that the kids were awarded and we used Google Drawings for it. So that's probably my number one top love with Google Drawings is these transparent images. Just love them to death. All right. We ready to move on? And actually looking at the time, I'm sorry, Desiree, go ahead.
Oh, I said, yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. In the chat, I'm going to go ahead and just go to the annotation tool, but in the chat, let Desiree know. And Desiree, if you can tally up the votes like you did for me with forms, I know, super formal, right? If we run out of time, like what would be maybe a priority order of any of these that you would like to be able to make sure that I touch on while we're here on camera? So I'm going to go ahead and go to the annotation tool because I think this one is a really cool. Plus, then I can show you how it also will work with Jamboard when we get to Jamboard. I just don't want to run out of time. So clicking on the annotation drawing, again, I just pre-created all of these. They're just a plain, simple Google drawing. On this one, I am not going to worry about the size of this, but what you're going to do on here is we're going to insert, and this could be a lot of different things that you could annotate. My first go around with Google Drawings, I inserted a map. Social studies teacher, we were talking about westward movement. I inserted a map. The kids had a series of questions on paper because we were new into the whole technology thing. and they had to do all of the annotations that they normally would have done in a workbook. We just didn't have the workbooks anymore, and they did it on a Google Drawing. But this could easily work for if you have straight text. If you've ever had kids annotate straight text with highlighters and post-it notes and drawing arrows and circling things, you could do that as well in Google Drawings. I'm going to do a map because that's my love. So we're going to look for a North America map. And I'm just going, and I'm inserting it. And then you could do any number of annotations with this. Right now, again, this isn't locked into the background. Let's say we want to use our tools to draw some arrows. We're going to go here to here, and I want to make sure that that color is red. It's really vibrant. You can see this. I want to mark the nation's capital over here. I'm going to put a star for that, fill it a really obnoxious color to make sure that we all know where that's at. If we were doing this collaboratively and all of you guys were in on this Google Drawing, I could say, all of you guys come in here and mark on the map where you're from, or maybe where you'd like to go on vacation, or how you've ever traveled from one place to another. For students, it could be as easy as, let's mark the different countries. And here is a really cool thing that people don't always know. If I make that a transparent, let's say I'm instructing the kids to put boxes around the names of the countries. Like, I want students to understand on a map the different ways that they're labeled. So put a box around each of the different countries. So I put a box around Canada, right? I spent all that time making it transparent, changing the shape, making the, nope, let's now just do, I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to do Command D, but if you're on a PC or a Chromebook, Control D, favorite keyboard shortcut. I can take this, make the box a little bit bigger because that's now that country. I'm going to outline Mexico. There you go. You can make this a drag and drop activity if you had the boxes over here on your gray space. If you had different shapes out here, again, think about the grade levels that we're talking about. You could have students using a text box, and we traveled from DC to California on our vacation. They can take that text box, they can move it around. And again, unless you're specifically wanting to print this, you can use all of the space that's out there. Just keep on going. And a lot of times kids are like, well, I can't read that real well. Well, move it off to the side. And then what I show them is use your arrow tool and just simply have told my computer, I want to create an arrow. Do you see this little purple circle? That kind of gives it a reference point. So if I'm going to do that, and then maybe I want to come over here and point it to the arrow so that I can indicate what that text is supposed to be matching up with. Notice it's that purple circle, okay? So now anytime that I want to move my text box, put on that arrow attached to the side of the map, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to see the purple dots around my text box now. I'm going to attach it to my text box. So now if I choose to move my text box, notice that the arrow is moving with it. Do you see that? And if I grab on this end of the arrow now, it stays attached to the text box and I can move it wherever I want. And notice when you come up to these different shapes, a lot of them are going to have those different purple dots on them. It's linking those arrows together. It's keeping that reference point. So if I take this text box now and I say, nope, I want to move it over here, it makes more sense to me, or maybe I found I put too much stuff over here, I'm going to move that reference over to that side. Notice the arrow goes right with it. So you're showing kids how to connect that so that it takes your annotation and really kind of does beef it up a little bit. You could have the students creating map keys on this too. If you wanted to have again, putting in a text box over here, or again, a little lesser known ability with these shapes is, did you know that you can type in them? So I've got this over here. Maybe I want to make this my map key. All I did was make a shape and double click in it. Now it's going to center the text and all that kind of stuff, but you can always adjust that. It's already left aligned, but I want to pop it up to the top or keep it in the middle or bring it down and then it'll, go backwards and all that kind of stuff. I like to keep it up at the top. And then you do have your font abilities, bold, underline. Don't want to have that bold underline. You could do 1, 2, 3. If you wanted to say what that star is for over here, bring that star here. And then we're going to type, this is the nation's capital. All those kinds of things using those shapes. So Google Drawings is a fantastic way. And if you're annotating a map specifically, if you're annotating one particular paragraph or reading passage, you only need one map. And then kids can do all kinds of things. Another thing that if you're looking for with a text and you want to be able to highlight in a text box, I'm sure that you know that there's the highlighter tool already in there that you can highlight with. But another thing that can be very useful is when you create a shape. And let's say I want to highlight, the Gulf of Alaska. Well, if I make the shape, it's going to come pre-colored. Maybe I want to, let's do no, not a blue. Let's do that. It's still a solid color, but if you go into your custom, and again, I know this could take kids down a path. This could take you down a path. Be aware of that. You can change the transparency factor of that particular color, and you can always come back and adjust this. So now you've kind of adjusted it. It's not like really popping off the page. So maybe that's, you change that color. Maybe let's go yellow and let's customize it. So you can make shapes that highlight entire areas, and think about how powerful that would be like on a text if you want them to highlight those different words. And it's not like it's a text box that they can select, like maybe it's an image of a reading passage. Those are some of my favorite ways to use annotations on a map, the shapes, using these arrows and different connectors. And then you can always insert images, but here's one last really big, but not commonly used, I would say, for annotation. Like, what if you add a comment? So normally comments are probably thought of as what other people comment on your stuff, but you could also add in your comment. So I've selected this text box and then my comment, because my toolbar change pops all the way over here. I could add in some sort of a comment here as well. If you were with us on Friday, I talked a lot about Moat. You could use your Moat extension if you're able to do that. And students could really kind of level up their annotations by using their voice. You could also, instead of using the commenting box for it, you could also open up your Moat and go into your recent ones. We could copy this one. Not that that's really anything that goes with this map, but you can always add in that link, and then you've got that extra layer of audio included with whatever text or visual or symbols that you're using. Desiree, any questions on the annotation?
None on the annotation, but the next thing that won out were choice boards. We have 3 vote for choice boards and 1 vote for banners.
All right, let's jump to choice boards because, again, choice boards are meant to provide choices, right? Now, let me preface this with, you could create choice boards in Google Docs by inserting tables. You could create choice boards in Google Slides. You could create choice boards in Google Sheets. All of them super useful. I like Google Drawings because of the ease of manipulation. I can take what I can do in a Google slide, which through these other two, you've probably seen how similar it is to Google Slides, along with the text richness of a Google Doc, and taking them and smashing them together to create this Google drawing. So if you're wanting to, and a lot of times this is more of a reference material as opposed to an interactive material for students, creating a choice board here in Drawings is great because of the download abilities that come. Again, you have them in slides, you have them with docs, but Drawings kind of brings the two of those beauties together. So if you do need to download them as PDFs in order to post them in your LMS and your Google Classroom, to email them to other people, you know, share the drawing with others and they can customize it to them. And that works really nice. Over here to the right, you can see in the gray space, hey, I've linked a Wakelet collection all about choice boards. So here we go. So again, I've got to think about my size. I'm going to think of a landscape piece of paper, which just means that it's going to be 11 by 8.5. So if I, it's that way. I always have to double check myself when I come up with these page. I always think, is it 11.5 by 8, 11 by 8.5? Sometimes I'm just not super confident that my brain is remembering that correctly. So again, the background is going to be completely transparent. You could insert a bunch of different shapes. They could be free floating shapes. You could also insert a table if you knew exactly, like maybe you want to think of a bingo board, they have to do 3 in a row, 3 across kind of thing. Maybe you want to limit them and only give them 4 options. This is where you as the teacher have to really have that thought process and that mindset of, I know what the learning goal is. I just want to provide my students with the ability to make some choices. And if you've been in teaching for any minimal amount of time, the older they get, the harder it is for them to make choices. And I've found that out because I feel like a lot of times we're just directing our students, do this, create a poster, create a Google Doc, create a Google slide, create a this. And we're not giving them the ability to make a decision. How do you want to share this information? You need to have a title. You need to have 10 facts. You need to have 4 pictures. You need to have X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. But each student could have their own little take on it. Some of them probably would enjoy creating a video. Some of them have that personality. Some of them would die to have to do that. Yep, you got to draw them out of your shells. But anyway, creating a table, very simple, 4 boxes kind of thing. Again, I would come back to my favorite website and let's look for some icons. Move that out of the way. So let's think about this. We want to give them a video option. Video. Let's go ahead and download that. I'm going to copy. It's going to take a second to download. Come on, go ahead. Great, thank you. Thank you. Come back to my choice board. And I'm going to insert that video, make it the size that you want. For those of you that would like, maybe you want to just do the searching the web for that. I mean, you could pull in your icons, your images. I like to give some sort of visual to make it a whole lot easier for the students to make that very quick association. And then once you have your icons in there, because it's just a table, this is where you create your requirements, your guide, your how-tos. Record a 2-minute video. You can do a lot of things. Now, if you need to, you want to, my intention here is that I'm not actually sharing the Google Drawing. So it doesn't really matter the layers, but when you want to get into these customizing, think of everything that you add in as a whole nother layer, and it's layering on top of each other. So this video icon right here is actually layered on top of my table because I put the table in first. So you've got to do some maybe moving around with these, but it allows you to completely customize the sizings of the icons. You can customize your text just like you can in all of the other ways. Now, what a lot of people like to do is changing the borders here, and it can be kind of tricky. So if you select, see how that's got like that thicker blue line, hold down your shift key, and you can select any and all of these borders. And then you can change the color and the thickness like you can with everything else, but maybe you want these inner lines to be a little bit less, still black, but not as thick. So you can really kind of lay this out in a very visually pleasing aspect. Now, what you can also do, if you keep the icons on top here and you're intending to share this digitally, is you could then link this out to, maybe you want them to use Screencastify. So you could link it to Screencastify. Or if you use a different video program in your district, WeVideo or Loom or any of the other number of recording options, you can even have them record right on their computers. If they have Chromebooks using their camera, it can also be a video recorder. So they could record it. If they're at home, they could just use their own personal device, upload their videos, and boom, there you go. However you choose to do it. And then a lot of times what I would do here, save myself some time and headache, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste that over here because I've already got the start of it. So this would be a written option. Maybe this is an audio option. And then this is your option. Sometimes it's really cool to let the kids pick and choose. Maybe they'll come up with something. Maybe they want to create a game, but that's not something that you had initially thought of. So choice boards are pretty awesome. And then, as always, giving it a nice, big, beefy title. My personal opinion is using this word art. So report choice board. And then you come here, pick out your favorite font, whatever it is that you really like to do, jazz up the colors, customize the colors, whatever it is that you need to. And then now when you go to share it out, again, the background becomes transparent, or if you're looking to adjust the background, what I did was I did a right click, a 2-finger tap. You could also, if you're over here, you can, 2-finger tap, right click, pull up that menu for the background. You could make it a white background, and notice how now the checkerboard look is gone. That looks really nice. You could print this out if you needed to physically hand it to kids. Keep in mind your links then at that point are a no-go. And be sure to check out that choice board. A colleague and I have created this for our district and sharing out different resources that are specific to choice boards, as well as some good choice board templates that are ready to go. Catlin Tucker is phenomenal when it comes time for choice boards. She's a good one for you to check out. Desiree, questions?
How could you embed this in a Google Doc?
Okay, so embedding drawings in Google Docs is what I was going to do with, which one? I think it was the infographic. Anyway, let's just go ahead and not with my annotation, with my choice board. Okay, so there's really 2 ways that you could do this. Okay, what I need to do first is create a Google Doc. So docs.new, that's the quick link, quick creation. Make sure it loads. So I've got my Google Doc here. Now, when you go to, obviously give it a name, choice board. Okay, so it's loading. I'm going to insert, right? That makes sense. Insert a drawing. You could do a new one, or you could do it from Drive, which is where I've got mine housed. And it's only going to pull up my drawings. Thankfully, we were just working on it, so it's one of my recent ones. And then I'm going to hit select. Now you have two options here. If you link it to the source, which is what I would highly recommend, because then I can make changes, make edits, typos, and it will update here in the doc. If you unlink it, you're inserting it as is. That's it. No more, no less. That's just what it is. So go ahead and insert that. Notice how it pops it right in there. Now, if you remember, I did put a hyperlink on my video to Screencastify. Remember, I did that. It doesn't hold when you bring that over. You can adjust the sizes on here, so you can shrink it and all that kind of thing. And you can also look directly at your linked drawing. Again, got to keep it linked, and you can go to it from here. Now, the other way that you can do this is you could take this, create it in drawings, and you can copy all of that. And then you're going to go to insert. Remember, the other option was new. And it's creating a mini drawing directly inside of your Google Doc, and then paste it all in there. You are probably going to need to select it all again. And can we shrink it? Where's my, because it's way too big. It's not letting me grab that corner. There we go. Let's shrink that puppy. And now I'm going to have to do some adjusting. Again, there's no link that is brought over. And let's pretend like I had this all fancy, right? Let's say that it looks the way it's supposed to right here. So the difference between these is it's an outside drawing that you've brought in, and it's not dynamic, if you will. This one, I can always jump back into it and make the adjustments directly in my doc. Those are two options. And I would say, number one, unless this is part of a bigger document, there's really no need to embed it, because you can always just share out this choice board. You could download it as the PDF and share out that PDF. You could print it directly here from Google Drawings. But if you are looking to embed it because it is a bigger, it's a piece to a bigger document, then you have two options. That answer the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent.
There are no other questions.
Excellent. Okay, so just real quick with the banners, we won't actually create them, but I do want to push you to this particular resource. And either A, I talk a tremendous amount, or I just get so into these and I just kind of go kind of crazy. I apologize for not getting through all of these. They're all really, really good uses of Google Drawings. Google Drawings is my choice for creating banners for Google Classroom, for my Twitter account, for my Facebook account, for my Wakelet account, for my YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff. I use Google Drawings, and I just have set drawings that I come back to, and I might modify every so often if I get a new badge or I want to change like my Twitter handle like I did this summer. I just go back to the drawing and make the adjustments. I download the image and I put it up there. Now, the big key to all of these is you have to know what the size is that you want for your drawing. So I went ahead and over here in the gray space. So if you come here, you can go to File, make a copy, have a copy of this for yourself. The social media image sizes are right on there. It's directly from Hootsuite. So these are the pixel numbers that you need to customize this mat to. And again, just real quick, you go to File, you go to Page Setup, you want to change it to Custom, change this to pixels, and let's say I want to do a Twitter landscape 1024 by 512. 1024 by 512. It's in pixels. I'm going to hit apply, and it changes the size to what I need for Twitter. Caution with all of this is don't fill up every tiny little space with something and then go to upload it. You're going to be disappointed because even though these are the right sizes, you want to make sure that you do leave some buffer space. Like when I cut things, I always try to leave a little bit of a buffer space so that I don't end up cutting off something very important. Leave some of that space. And I would say the lighter in color that you can make it, don't really make things super duper heavy, because that readability factor really comes into play and it gets very difficult. Now, since Google Classroom is a really big place that teachers like to create these custom banners, I do have a template, and it comes with a little activity. And what I have really come to love is when teachers obviously have to have their Google Classrooms ready to go. A generic banner comes with that classroom. When you create it, teachers can customize that to the hilt if you want to. But here's an idea that I'd like to propose. Your students are using the classroom just as much, if not more, than what you do, right? Because they're not only using yours, they're using other teachers and all that kind of stuff. That's where they're expected to submit all of their work. Like, we've placed that upon them. It's not a bad thing. But how cool would it be if they helped, or they were the ones that created your banner for your Google Classroom and had that little bit of ownership? A lot of teachers allow students to help customize their bulletin boards in their classrooms, or maybe decorate their doors. The classroom header is just one more space that your students can show off some artwork. They can invest a little bit of their own, creativity and their own flavor to the class, and create it as a contest. Like, maybe change it once a month or every new quarter. Let's have another Google Classroom banner contest. Have students explain, defend, write about why they feel this banner, is the better one. Have them get up and present it. Like, you could really kind of create this into an entire activity, if you will. And that's exactly what I wrote about in that. This links to a blog on my website, and it can really encourage your kids to feel a lot more connected to that Google digital space that we are we're all relying on these days. So let's make that back to, so I can see everything. There you go. So now if you want to make a copy of it, just know that those sizes, and quite honestly, if you're looking for something that's not on there, do a Google search. Google Classroom banner size. I've got the template in my blog. You don't have to worry about that, but just do a Google search. You'll find it. It'll pop up. Again, just make sure that you allow yourself some of that space to play with. All right, questions? If we have time, Desiree, come back.
Yep, we are good to go.
Okay, and then here is my Google Drawings Wakelet collection, where I mentioned Tony Vincent. He's a great one. He shares out a lot of really good tips and tricks. And if you haven't seen it and you want to get a little bit more comfortable, he has a really awesome weekly resource that he pushes out. It does cost a little bit of money, but it's called Shapegrams. Students love it. He's a 5th grade teacher. He shares it out, and he uses Google Drawings, and he shows kids how to really manipulate, and does some really amazing things in Google Drawings. So check out that. He's in there. And we are headed off to, I should say we're jamming off to Jamboard. All right, here we go. Part 2, top of the hour, part 2, Jamboard. Oh, I'm talking so much. I'm thirsty. All right, here we go. again, Jamboard, I'm going to use the tool. This is a Google Jamboard if you've never seen it. And I know we said we're going to be leveling up. Don't worry, I'm adding in a lot of basics with this one simply because Jamboard is probably, it's only been around, I think, a couple of years. It's one of the newer tools. And honestly, when it first came out, it was an actual board. It was an interactive board. It was pricey, but then you find this app and then you're like, oh, sweet, I can use this on whatever you've already got. Jamboard, again, look at its colors. Colors remind you a little bit of Google Slides. Yep, you're right. So Jamboard is going to share a lot of the same qualities, as Google Slides has. And it also kind of borrows heavily from Google Drawings, but it does some things that neither of the other two do. And that's a clear reason why you should be able to and incorporate using Jamboard in your classroom. So first of all, just to kind of orient everyone here, this is a Jamboard. It does live in your Google Drive. Up here, you can see the number of frames. So slides, you have slides. Google Drawings, you only have the mat. In Jamboard, you have frames, and I can click on that tiny little shark tooth, tiny little shark tooth, and you can see all of my frames that go out. I only have 18 in this particular jam. So then I just pop it right back up. So slides, you can see all the tiles on the left. Jam, you gotta, okay. And then you can navigate through your frames with these side carrots. So here's my title slide. And then moving on to frame 2, and you can see it's 2 of 18. You could say, well, what the heck is Jamboard? If you've never experienced, it's one of the few Google tools that allows you to freehand draw. Yay, finally. I think if Slides had this, I think if Drawings had this ability, I don't know that we'd actually even be talking about Google Jamboard, but they don't. Jamboard does. Love it. Jamboard has also come a long way in its very short lifetime. And it's interactive. It is a Google app. Your admin will have to turn it on. It doesn't come on by default. So if you can't make a jam or you can't access jamboard.google.com, you may have to talk to your Google admin in order to get them to flip the switch on it. It can act as a whiteboard. And again, similar to Drawings, similar to Slides. And yes, of course, it's a Google tool. It is collaborative. You can see I've got all of my anonymous peeps on here. They should only be able to view it, but if I allowed editing, they could also be editing on here as well. And one of their newer features is in this World's Skinniest Snowman. Yes, if you haven't seen this and you're a Jamboard user, yes, there is a version history now. And yes, it does look a whole lot like all of the other version histories, color-coded, time-stamped, all that. You can revert to it. Thank you. Thank you. Jamboard has been missing that since it began because you used to not be able to do that in a classroom. That's kind of a problem. So the next frame, some pros and cons. Why? I mean, isn't this beautiful? I changed the background. I got a nice blue lined paper on here. Some of the pros is it's going to feel very comfortable to those of us that have used Slides. This laser, this is really fun. If you're trying to draw students' attention to all of these different, I'm just using that laser to circle them. You know, you can come over here to the cons, and it really just is that indicator when you're trying to draw attention to it, like, oh, boo, cons, you know, yay, pros, here you go. That laser is a pretty cool, and again, not in Slides, not in Drawings, anywhere. Go off of that, please. Okay. And you can see when you click on these little tools over here to the left, it's going to give you different abilities. Now, to some of the cons, you do have to understand the limitations before you can really embrace a product and really understand the abilities to level up. And the cons are you can only max out at, or you can you will max out at 20 frames. So when I add 2 more frames onto this jam, that's it. I can't have a 21st. I can't have a 50th. 20, done. Also, you are maxed at 50 people collaborating at one time. Now, I know that's probably not going to happen in too many of our classrooms, but if you ever did anything across and with another teacher, or maybe they're pen pals that are in a different city or something of that nature, you max out at 50 people on a particular jam. You cannot add in videos, and I have not found a way to insert hyperlinks. If any of you do know how to make the hyperlinks work, please tell me, because that is one of my biggest hangups with Jam. Although, like, I understand there are limitations for a reason, right? And that's not to say that in the future they won't come out with the ability to add in hyperlinks, but at this point, I'm not aware of a way to make hyperlinks work. And then the other thing, keep in mind, it is a newer app, so it's constantly evolving, constantly changing, and they're constantly coming out with really new and cool things. So let's move on, shall we? So here are some practical applications that you could use Google Jamboard for. I have a first grade teacher, and she really wanted to find a creative way of working with spelling with her students this past year. And keeping in mind, it had to be digital. If we had to go, like, we were lucky enough, we were face to face with following all of those protocols. But she said, what if we aren't one day? I need to teach the kids now how to use these digital tools. And I want it to be something that's worthwhile, something that's applicable, that is still doing the same thing that we would on paper. So
before you get started or move on, I'm so sorry. I want to stop you just before. Kate asks, can we freehand draw in drawings with the scribble line option?
You can. I don't particularly care for it. If I come back, let's go to my annotation. If I come here to scribble, you can, and then it is what it is, right? I mean, you can shrink it. It's possible. I just find it kind of cumbersome. And I'll show you why I think Jamboard is a better option if you're going to be doing any kind of bigger, beefier kinds of free drawing. So yes, possible. I just have never, I don't know if I'm just not inept or adept with it with my mouse or with my finger on my trackpad. I just find it clunky. And then if you're on any kind of touch screen and you're using like a pen or whatever, it is kind of funky that way too. All right, so back to Jamboard. So first grade teacher, keep that in mind. First grade teacher does this. She created this jam and she shared it out every week with her students, and she taught the kids how to do this. So they had these 5 words and they wrote the words up here at the top. Again, this is individually then. So each student had their own 5 words, and then they had to type their words in these shaded spaces down here. Pretty cool, right? And what she did was she created it and then she uploaded it as the background. And that's what the kids did that on. And every week they just got into that routine of doing that with their spelling words. Now, another thing that you could do, because you have 20 frames, is maybe you have that for the Monday activity. And then maybe on Tuesday, you've got a different activity. So then on the frame 2, they're working on a different activity with those same spelling words. Keep that. These are just like thoughts that you could do. Now, a really cool thing, and it's totally possible, I've done it, is you can make copies of jams in Google Classroom, just like you do with Google Docs or with a Google Slide or with a Google Sheet. Is you make an assignment, because that's the option that you need to choose, make an assignment, insert your Google Jam, so maybe spelling week 4, and then do the make a copy for every student. So they're getting that copy for that particular week. It's their own copy. They can turn that in then to their teacher and all that. It's wonderful. It works just like all the other Google applications. Now, what the kids will have to do is you're going to have to do a little bit of teaching, and we're going to do that on the next frame. I've already inserted this as a background. Don't worry, I'll show you how to do that. But here's where the beauty is. Like, The kids they can't mess with the outline, the background. They can't change this. They can't accidentally delete it. I've inserted it as a background, just like I would with a Google slide. And then you're going to show the kids one of two ways in order to, actually, I guess one of three, if you wanted to type in their words. They could insert a text box and they could say, let's do house, right? Now, you can pick a different color. For size purposes, they only have a few options. Not a bad thing for small kids, not a bad thing for some of these older ones. They just, when you don't have all of those options, you're not spending your time on these options. And then a really cool thing that you could do or teach them how to do is if they have one word, they click on that, they can duplicate it, and then they can bring that over. Or if you needed to or wanted to, you could do this before sharing it in Google Classroom. And then here's a second way that kids could write their words. Yes, I know it's all the same word here. They could use a sticky note. So maybe they're going to do this pink and their word is house. So there it is. I'm going to type house. You can't hit enter and go down to a new line. House, house, house. Hey, look at me. Not only am I spelling, but I'm also working on my typing skills. And then I'm going to hit save. And notice it kind of takes that and like pushes it off to the side with a Post-it note. Now this little mat right here, you can't move it. You can change the colors of it. You can even make it so that there's no background when you type in these words if you wanted to. But to get that to go away, you have to cancel out of there and then you move your Post-it wherever you need to. It can make it bigger. There is a little bit of sizing on that. Or here's the other one. And if you're lucky enough to have touch screens, you could show them how to use the pen. And they've got the pen, they've got a marker, highlighter, obviously, I'm going to work for this, and a brush. And this is where I say Jamboard really wins when you want to do some of this freehand. Yes, you're going to be limited on maybe say your colors and all that, but I feel like this is going to be a little bit more realistic, a little bit more intuitive if you go this route. So maybe we're going to change to a blue color and we're going to come over here and I'm going to just practice writing my word house. So I've done a text box here, I've inserted on a Post-it note here, and I've done freehand with my pen here. Now, if you had touch screens and you had the students had the right stylus and all that, they could actually be practicing their handwriting. Not a bad thing, right? I think that's pretty cool. And if they make mistakes, there's your little eraser tool. And again, because they can't erase your background because that's inserted as a background. All right, hopefully that helps that person who was asking about the freehand drawing in drawings. I like it better in Jamboard. All right, math teachers out there, rejoice. Whoop, whoop, math. Jamboard is great, great, great for math. And if you look, you see that little Equatio toolbar that I've got down at the bottom. It's because I have an Equatio teacher account, which is free. It's free. Did you hear me? Free. It's free for teachers. Now, that doesn't mean that your students get the account, but you, the teacher, can now use some of these really rich math tools, and it works with Google Jamboard. Eric Kurtz has a wonderful, wonderful blog that I've got in my Jamboard Wakelet that you can always grab later. I've got my resources tucked at the end like I always do. Eric Kurtz is in there. His blog goes through and really shows you in a lot more detail than I have time for here how you can use this Equatio toolbar in your math class, especially those of you that are in the upper grades with math. I stick to more elementary because that upper level math is not my strongest suit. So Jamboard does have different frames that are pre-created. So when you want to set your background, you have these frames pre-created, and I can easily change them from one to the other, and it doesn't really mess with anything that I have on the front. Now, that is also where I came in and I added in an image as my background. So keep that in mind. If you have graphs already created, say maybe in your Google Drawings, or for this particular presentation, I created a Google slide deck that I sized to what a Jamboard frame is. And then I created each of these backgrounds that I'm going to show you today on a Google slide, downloaded them. I saved them in my Jamboard activities folder in my drive. So now all I have to do with my slide is come over here. And if I, let me show you, if you wanted to insert a slide, like I'm going to do here, I'm just going to click that little shark toothy. I want to insert a frame here. And now I have a completely blank frame. And let's say I wanted to insert one of those backgrounds that I created. I click on that. I'm going to go to my Google Drive. And then I'm going to hop into my recent. Sometimes the waiting is the hard part, right? And then here are my backgrounds that I have that I was holding on to. So let me just real quick insert that spelling sort again. And boom, there you go. It's the frame. It's not going to go anywhere. Kids can't change things up. They can't delete any of that stuff. So if you have some of your own math created, or you want to create them, save them in your drive, and then you can upload them. So here are some of the different ways that you have one whole jam with multiple different problems on it. And we're going to get to a drag and drop activity that I created that has to do with money. Maybe you have a series of money questions because that's what you're focusing in on. And I've inserted all of these different coins. So one question is, how many different ways can you create $3.64 with the money that you've got over here? You could do it that way. Now, what I did is I went ahead and I duplicated each of these pieces of money, and I created like a stack. So all the kids have to do at this point, is pull these over. $1, $2, $3, 25, 50, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. So that's one way. If you're wanting to give them endless amounts, just like in a Google slide, you can duplicate and clicking on that snowman, duplicate. There you go. You could use your keyboard shortcut. Oops, nope, click on that keyboard shortcut. There you go. Now it's nice that you can do that. You can't do a lot of it at one time, but notice here too, the gray space isn't really gray space in Jamboard like it is on the other ones. So you can shove it off to the side, which gives you more working space, if you will. So all of that is over there, but notice it kind of disappears over in that area. But teaching your students how to do that duplication is a really cool thing too. And honestly, copying from one frame to another frame, it's a little bit iffy. So if you're going to do that, put a little bit of thought into the abilities of your students, or build in that time to teach the kids as you go with it. Math questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Next step. So we're going to do pretty much a direct comparison here with what we did with a Google Drawing versus Jamboard annotation. I've got some pictures right here, and I don't think nope, it's a completely blank one. So here's where you can take an image from here, and I just did a Google search and found these. I am going to select this picture, I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to move on to my next frame, and I'm going to paste it on there. So I've got that picture. That's easy enough to be able to do. You can change the sizes of all of that. Here's where, again, the freehand drawing tool, I think, really wins out over any of them. Like, I want to really kind of circle these people. Maybe I want to add a sticky note and I'm going to color code it. These people are celebrating and you could connect them from here to there. You could have students find new things and insert them. They can create different shapes that really kind of highlight, focus in. They can tilt. You can change the proportions of those shapes. Maybe you're really kind of trying to focus attention on there. It really does feel a lot like a Google Drawing, just with that freehand tool, I feel like is a lot better. And then to kick it up another notch, if you were to layer in presentations, you have this laser pointer to where students can really kind of indicate, or you can really indicate to the students, this is the area I need you to be looking at, but you're not permanently doing any, I shouldn't say permanently because nothing's permanent, you can delete it, but you're not actually doing something to that annotation tool. Again, text boxes are out over here. This scene looks like it's from the World War II time. You can manipulate your text boxes somewhat. Again, this is where I say embrace the limitations, because your kids are not going to spend even 5 minutes trying to figure out which is their favorite font, or do I like that font, or do I want to change this size or whatever. They only have a handful of options. Yes, they can change color. They have a handful of colors. So this is a great starter tool because it has stuff, but it doesn't have so much stuff that you get lost in it. And they can do different alignments, different things like that. So annotations works really nicely in Google Jamboard as well. How many of you have spent time this year on your computers or not being able to interact with your students the way that you really wanted to interact with your students? How many of us have done these check-ins with our students? You can do this in Jamboard as well. Creating a simple chart. How do you feel today? You've got a couple of different pictures for the students to identify with. Share this collaboratively. This is a great way to have that collaboration conversation with students, not messing with things, not deleting other students' work on here, not moving items. Version history is great helper now. Keep that in mind too. And this can be completely anonymous if you wanted it to be. They don't have to put their names to it, or they can, or you design it in a way that works within your classroom culture. So I just created that real simple slide. I'm going to insert that image right here as my check-in. And again, when you insert it as a frame, remember I made these all in my Google slide deck, downloaded them as images, put them in my drive to hold on to them so I can use them over and over and over again. I created that file that is going to be the location for any and all of my Jamboard backgrounds, so I could always go to that file folder and pull them in. Students can create a little sticky note with their name on it. They can change the color. Or you could already have the Post-it notes in there, and Sarah's going to say, I'm feeling kind of happy today. Or it's Monday, it's kind of dreary, I'm feeling kind of tired and sad. Or, you know what? If I can edit that, maybe they don't even put anything on there. Maybe it's just some sort of a, I'm here, this person is here. And then kids can put themselves wherever, right? That's a nice little check-in thing to do. Another idea, and I'm pretty sure I already created this. Yep, it's our next one, is for attendance purposes. I had fourth grade teachers talk to me several years back that they would always have their boards on in the morning, and the students would come in and they would grab their avatar or their image or whatever it was that the kids had created. Maybe it was just even their names, and the students would move over where they were, and it was for their lunch count, but it also served a purpose for attendance. So you could have one jam that you reset every day, or have several of these backgrounds, maybe for the seasons of the school year, or, you know, kind of go crazy, let your creative brain move on. Again, allow students to create some of these. It's an idea. But when you do that, and then the kids can come and you have this up, the kids can be moving themselves, or they're doing this on their computer because this jam is shared with them, and Google Classroom is a great place to link it. Or it's maybe not about whether or not they're packing or buying. Maybe it's, you know, I'm here or not. You know, they just have to move their token over to I'm here today if you're still working in a virtual environment. So it's as easy as, again, setting the background. Here's my lunch. And you could have the students all create different images. Drawings would be a great one. They could create them their little selves in there. And then you have a folder and you bring them in once. Or just use Post-it notes. Here's Sarah. Here's Desiree. Here's Joan. Here's Mark. Luis. You know, Jose, whomever. And you have all of these, and every day you've got them, and they just move. You know, maybe you have them lined up on maybe your center line is for the best, and they just have to find themselves. And then every day they say, oh, I'm packing. Nope, I'm buying. Nope, I'm buying. Buying, packing, buying. And they can just move themselves around, and then you have an accurate attendance. You also have your lunch count, and the kids all did this as when they're coming in. Again, thinking about check-ins with kids. I'm feeling good. I'm not feeling good. I'm here. I'm not here. I'm buying. Those are all pretty cool ways that you can use a Jamboard, and you can repeat that over and over again. Now, here's another annotation, and this is another way that I wanted to do a direct compare and contrast with Google Jamboard and Google Drawings. What if you have a reading passage and you want students to be annotating this reading passage? This can work really, really well in Jamboard. And again, I'd say it works a little bit better in Jamboard than it does in Google Drawings, but pick the tool that you're more comfortable with. Pick the tool that you feel like is a better option. And let's go ahead and insert that as our background. So again, I like inserting it as a background as opposed to a picture, because they can move the picture all around. Having this already pre-created in my slide means that if I ever wanted to change out this reading passage, I could just swap it out, duplicate that on my slide, download, and put it in here. And I know that feels like a couple of different steps, but you have to understand the limitations for each of these tools. And right now, that's just kind of where it's at. So again, Post-it notes, and this is where your highlighter tool, maybe you want to highlight in green, and an activity that you want the kids to do is highlight all of the verbs in green, or highlight the nouns in yellow, or the adjectives with blue. And you think about your different needs. So step would be one. Realize, and then, okay, so then you're going to change colors, and intruder is a noun. I is a noun. Crab is a noun. And then you go to your adjectives, bizarre, pearly. You know, look how nice that annotation is. And then if you want your students to create those sticky notes and really kind of, this sounds like a creepy bug. You know, they can put their little Post-it notes out there. They can use the text boxes. They can use these shapes, these different abilities to insert these different shapes, and see what a square looks like. And you, again, not too many options right here. Let's make it transparent. And here is the pronunciation for this word. Really go crazy with this. Part of what you could do on your annotation slide, if I jump back over, look at us doing a little bit of app smashing. All it is on my Google slide is a text box. What if I wanted to shift that over and I wanted to insert some directions over here? Highlight all verbs, green, highlight all nouns. I think I did blue, etc., right? Do that. And then this is how I created all of them. And then I went through the process of download as a PNG. I had my file folder open here. I dragged and I dropped it up here. And I'm going to rename it Annotations Part 2. And then when I come back to my jam, I'm actually going to add another frame right behind it. It's blank. And then I can set that background and the directions come right with it. So again, they can't delete the text and they can't delete the directions. So students will always know what is there, right? So they'll always have those instructions and they can't just oopsie accidentally delete it. If they do, they're deleting the whole entire frame. Questions on any of that so far, Desiree?
You can continue.
All right. This next one, handwriting, free drawing. We've already kind of talked about this a little bit, but I really want you to think about the creativity factor that can be given to your students using Jamboard. We've all gone through this evolution in these last 12, 16 months, however long it's been. If you want to sit down and count it out, go for it. But our tools have also evolved as well. And a lot of them have come out with a lot of great improvements. Jamboard is one of those. And a lot of schools are pushing more and more into the digital world. And a lot of teachers go, hold the phone. We still need paper and pencil. And I don't disagree with you. I really, really don't. But I also understand that a lot of times we're very quick to discount one way or the other. And I think what we need to start doing is looking at the best of both worlds. There are activities that are done best on paper, 100%. There are a lot of activities that it's a whole lot better, easier, more fun, more creative to do it digitally. And tools like Jamboard really allow for bringing together the best of so many different things these days. Handwriting is not one that people commonly think that they can do well on the computer. Or you might think I have to have a really expensive fill in the blank stylus and tablet and all that kind of stuff. If you have the ability to have touch screen devices, even better. But even if you don't, I found using the pen tools over here to be a lot better than they are in Google Drawings. Trying to write freehand in Google Drawings, to me, it just, I don't see a point to it. And in fact, if I come back here on our annotation page, if I were to do that scribble again, and I wanted to freehand the word house, come on, little scribble. I can't just, I have to, for each stroke of the pen, I've got to keep moving it around. So just pick the tool that works best. I feel like Jamboard is a little bit smoother. It's a little bit cleaner, and you can layer in a whole lot more. So I'm not going to tell you this is my original idea, but you could create some of your standard paper for the Jamboard as a background. Again, hopping over to the Google slide deck that I created. These are all just a series of lines. I created one line, I made it blue, made it a little bit thicker. I think it was a 3 or maybe a 4. And then I duplicated it, changed the color to red, changed it to a dashed line, and you could do that over and over again. Select that, copy, or I like to duplicate, and you could do an entire slide that has that inserted as your frame, and voila, you now have that beautiful handwriting paper that you could create for students to practice their handwriting on. I think I'm still on highlighter tool. Let's go to marker where it's a little bit thicker. Now, I'm just using my trackpad. Again, if you have touchscreen abilities and you have the kids could be using their fingers to do it. If they have a stylus, they could do it that way. But you also have the ability then to do these Post-it notes and really giving the kids a little bit of flexibility and space to be creating. Now, do we want to see what that really looks like full on or not? Any preferences there?
None so far.
Okay, so here is my last frame. I would never, ever say that I am the best with Jamboard. I'm still learning. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly finding new and better ways to use Jamboard. I really suggest you take a look at this Wakelet collection. There's a ton of stuff in there, but also I want to give this particular resource a little bit of love here towards the end. And this is the Doing More with Google Jamboard with Matt Miller. It's $29 for the course. And yes, that does cost a little bit of money, but I would say if Jamboard is your jam, or you're finding that you really, really want to learn a lot more about it and you want to do it in a very maximized and efficient way, doing Matt's $29 class, Google Jamboard, I really feel like is the way to go. He steps you through some modules. And if you go to this website right here, it's a pretty simple one to type in, or just search Do More with Google Jamboard. Matt Miller's website's Ditch That Textbook. It'll come up. He does have a 4-part series. Oh, look at me. I've got a typo in there. I'm going to fix right now. Goodness. That you can preview a lot of different things. But when you buy this course, he's also sharing, I think it was something like 40 different templates of Jamboards that he's already got created, that by buying the course that you have access to all of these templates and they're yours then, that you're free to do with whatever. You're free to use them in your classrooms. You're free to customize them. They're great inspirational pieces too, where a lot of times it's planting the ideas. That's the hardest part, where you say, oh, I saw that Matt did Venn diagrams in his Jamboard. I wonder if I could take those 2 circles and I could create the 3-circle Venn diagram. Some of it is a little bit of a confidence builder, seeing that somebody else has done it. He is just a hands down fantastic Jamboard expert. Now, another fantastic Jamboard expert that I want to point you to is Kim Matina. She is a certified Jamboard expert. And I'm going to just real quick jump into there because I want to pull up one of her big resources. And it's free. This one is free. Matt's course, there's a lot of reason that I push people towards that course is because there's a lot of value in it. Now, in this Wakelet collection, there's just a ton of different things. People are constantly sharing stuff out, and they're sharing templates of Jamboards of different activities. This one's strictly, Kim Matina just recently came out with a book all about Jamboard, but this one right here, this idea board for Jamboard, is the one that I want to point you in this direction. And I want to give this, again, a little bit of direct love, a little bit of a shout out here, is because she is a Jamboard expert here. And if I'd have questions, I would go to her. She has so many different ideas, thoughts, abilities, processes, creative ways that you could use Jamboard in your classroom for all kinds of different reasons. Here are graphic organizers, creating illustrations, stories, emoji writing, labeling, lists, math. The list just keeps going on and on and on, right? So keep going through here. And she's got some other resources, but each of these are linked. Let's go to note-taking. So she goes through and she's giving you all kinds of really good resources and things. This is what students are going to be able to do, and this is what this activity is going to promote. You go through all these kinds of things, and she's talking about it. Like if Jamboard, like I said, is your jam, please take up some time and go to Kimberly Matina and go to Matt Miller. Eric Kurtz, here's his Equatio. If you're a math teacher and you're interested in that Equatio toolbar that I had down at the bottom, that is the blog post that Eric Kurtz did. And everybody knows I'm a big Eric Kurtz fan. He just explains things so well. And again, check out all of these other different Jamboard resources. Like I said, there's a lot of tips and tricks and all kinds of things in here for you to take advantage of. And looking at the time, we're at about 15 minutes left. So do we want to hop back to Google Drawings? Do we want to stop there and allow for questions? What are people itching for?
I would say hop back to Google Drawings, maybe show one more thing, and then we can open it up to questions.
All right. So going back to Google Drawings. Here is a pretty cool use, that linkable images, drag and drop. We've talked about that a little bit already. How about beginning of the school year? Beginning of the school year, it's always nice getting to know activities for students and their teachers. A vision board might be a great activity to do. And if you've ever seen people doing vision boards, it's really just a bunch of different images. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. You could give gear the kids towards a specific thought process when you're talking about vision boards, but you don't necessarily have to. What do you see this year being? Where would you love to go on vacation? What are your 5 goals that you hope to achieve in your life? What are the 5 things that you need to tell me? Like, go endless. Now, a lot of teachers, when it's the all about me at the beginning of the year, it's very text heavy. But using Google Drawings, they can incorporate text and images. They can take pictures of themselves and insert that. They can do a lot of different things. So again, keep in mind, are we going to print this, or are we that completely off the table and we just want to share it digitally? Let's just share digitally. That way I'm not worried about the size of this. And you can let students go a little bit wild and crazy. So I'm going to start with dream vacation. And I don't know about any of you guys, but my dream vacation, and it is on my bucket list, is the state of Hawaii. I have wanted to go there for so long. It hasn't happened, but one day, right? One day. So dream vacation. And then I'm going to search the web, and I'm going to simply type in Hawaii. And you can put all kinds of requirements on there. Maybe you want to insert that map. Oh, that's nice. It's transparent. Here's another thing that you may or may not know. If you just straight come back to your inserting, did you know that it's going to keep it? Oops, I closed it out. My bad. It's going to keep it there. And then did you also know that you can insert more than one picture at a time? So I've clicked on that one. I'm going to click on that one. Ooh, these look so nice. Definitely see it. Oh yeah, let's go by plane. I'm going to insert all of these. Sure, let's check out a volcano. Hopefully it's not erupting at the time. check that out. So I'm going to insert all of these pictures. And it's going to put them all on there. And actually, what I'm going to do is I just kind of drew over. I'm hoping to select quite a few of them. I'm going to hold my shift key down. I'm going to make them all a lot smaller, and then I'm going to bring them over here. And then here's where you kind of go to the next level with these images. Remember the masking tool that we are able to do and that I absolutely love? Start masking your images. Remember, it's the triple click, pulling in. You got to fiddle with it maybe a tiny bit. You know, you got to pick and choose what it is that you're going to. But this kind of gives the kids the ability to be a little bit creative. They can do a little bit, but it's not the super heavy, I've got to dot all of my I's and cross all of my T's kind of activity. And they can show off a little bit of their own interests and thoughts. Like I'd probably have to put like a zip line on here for my husband, or definitely maybe a Jeep that we could drive around with and see all of these different items and places and all that kind of thing. But a vision board can really be a great place to collect all of this. And then maybe you also say, yeah, but now you gotta include some text, right? So I would say, Hawaii is my dream vacation, and keep typing, and, you know, write your 10-sentence explanation or whatever it is that you're looking for the kids to give you information all about. And then again, because we're not looking to print this, they've got all of that space, but it's all right here. It's not on multiple slides. You don't have to worry about them having 17 different slides full of giant pictures, which is another activity that's worthwhile. But with that, I'm going to wrap up vision boards and see if there are any questions.
So we did have a couple of questions. One is about GIFs or GIFs on the I don't know what I was about to say. On the background of Jamboard. Does that work okay or not?
I don't think that is supported. I think it is a single image, but let's see. That kind of gets me intrigued. Let's see if this one, let's do a happy birthday one. What do you think? Let's see, you can embed that. Can we, where's my download? Nope. Let's do happy birthday. I'm probably gonna have to have counts. I don't believe that it is, because I think it needs to be, although if you can house it in Drive.
I know to upload a regular GIF to Jamboard, you have to download it and then use add image to add it, and it works great. Now, as the background, I'm not sure, but some people in the chat are saying that it can work.
Oh, it can? Oh, well, there you go. All right.
So what we'll do right now is I will allow you to get on the mic. And if we have any questions, we'll go ahead and answer those right quick. So you are able to unmute yourself at this time.
Hi, this is Elizabeth. I created a social emotional learning. I got the idea from Matt Miller.
Mhm.
Finish that textbook. So I'm going to try to put in the link, but I don't know if it's going to work. So we'll see if it works. But this was an animated GIF. So you can click on it and see if it works for you. But I believe it's on frame 3.
Oh. Let's see.
Is it letting you see it? I have to make sure my permissions are right.
Yeah, I'm on it. Do you
Okay,
care
so-
if I share it?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So in frame 3 is where I did the, so that's locked into the background.
Oh, nice. And did you have to do like what we like the downloading and then housing it in your drive and pulling it in?
Well, so yes, I think the short answer is yes. But I got all of these from Giphy, the same site you were just on, and I did it all as a PowerPoint, and then I changed that PowerPoint to the animated GIF, and then I just hit the set as background, and then it turned into this.
Perfect. That's
Okay.
awesome. So yes, people, it can be done. Liz said so.
Thank you. That's all.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
That's really awesome, Liz.
Yeah.
I love these kind of collaborative sessions. Okay, does anyone else want to hop on the mic and ask a question or give a comment or give any help?
I'm going to hop on. Sarah, this is Val. I've watched so many of your presentations, and what I'm most impressed with over and over and over is you give us really quality stuff, but even when we ask questions, you know even more. It's so great to spend this time with you. I just want you to know that.
Thank you. Thank you. I say this time and time again. I feel very lucky. I absolutely love what I do, and I love working with teachers, and I'm so inspired. Like, to be quite honest, I hadn't thought about inserting GIFs in the background. So to have somebody ask me that, like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure about, I didn't think it was that, but, and then to find out like that was all in the matter of 3 minutes. And then Liz throws out, hey, yeah, I've got one. Here you go. Like, how cool is that? Like, I love that community that we build. So thank you for coming. Because if you weren't willing to come, I wouldn't be here. So thank you.
All right, so I think we are going to wrap this up. Remember, tomorrow is Google Sites. So I 100% suggest coming to that. People get, afraid like, oh, I'm not building a website, but oh my goodness, you're going to see the amazingness of it. So I do suggest coming to our last session in this summer series tomorrow with Google Sites. Make sure that you go and register for that one specifically. And Sarah, what can we say? What can we say? Thank you so much. I'm always impressed, not only like Valerie said, that you come and spend your time for free and set all this up, but the resources that you give out, like the resources, the time you put into creating, and their quality. They're not just like, hey, here's a slideshow. Like, it's quality stuff. So I absolutely appreciate all the time you put into these series for us.
Well, Desiree, it wouldn't be possible without you. So you get a lot of kudos too, allowing me to jump into your channel, Educator Alexander, and be able to share. So I love working with you, and I very much appreciate all of the support that you've given me.
Hearts, hearts, hearts.